Good morning and welcome to Unusual Activity powered by FinancialJuice.com with George Avedon and Milton Marmonides. Thank you for joining us this Friday, 9th of January 2015. As always, a tremendous amount of news that's happening overseas in Europe, certainly keeping an eye on the French situation. We have a rather volatile beginning to the day in U.S. trading, with the S&P futures currently down 8.25 handles at 2046 2047 even on the S&P 500. We have crude oil lower this morning again by 47 cents at that 48.32 level. Remember that we mentioned this yesterday. We'll go into the technicals again today, but that 48 seems to be a rather interesting level for crude oil. We have the 10-year at 2.011, and we have the 30-year ticking higher here on the yield at 2.612. So quite a bit of a interesting moves out of the 10-year and the 30-year. We have the dollar lower now. It was higher this morning in pre-market, currently at 92.297, lower by 0.071. We have the euro showing a bit of strength here, still at that 1.17 handle at 1.1792. So again, keeping a very close eye on. Also, we are just getting in U.S. Wholesale inventories month over month for November. We have 0.80% versus the zero point 0.3 estimated. Prior revised was from 0.4 to 0.6. Again, month over month, we have the wholesale inventories rising by 0.8%. Estimated was 0.3. Prior revised from 0.40 to 0.60. On the wholesale trade number, month over month for November, we have a negative number coming out, a negative 0.30 estimated, 0.00. Prior revised down from 0.20 to 0.00. So better on the inventories, lower number on the trade, on the wholesale trade number. We'll see what kind of impact we have on the S&P futures. We have the S&P futures just above those pre-market lows at 2047.50. So again, we'll continue to keep an eye on this throughout our program this morning. Let's dive into what we had yesterday. Briefly, we had the S&P 500 higher by 1.79%. We did have early morning strength and really a rather tight trading range all the way into the close from the late morning. Not much volatility after that initial pop, if you will, in pre-market, specifically on the SPX. Dow Jones Industrial Average also higher by 1.84% at 17,907.87. We have the Nasdaq higher by 1.84 yesterday at 4736.19. So again, we'll see. We did see a couple day rebound from that downtrend towards the end of the year into the new year. We were in positive territory for the year, quote unquote, yesterday. So again, this lower on the S&P, lower by 6 handles now at 2049. A slight improvement as we're speaking now, but again, we'll see how the rest of the market respond to these wholesale inventories. Excuse me. So what we want to get into is, certainly we had the non-farm payroll this morning, and again, we want to mention what's happening in France. We're not glossing over this, of course, but as we learn new things, we'll certainly pass that along. And should we hear anything, we'll certainly pass that along. On the non-farm payrolls, we had unemployment rate at 5.6. This is the lowest rate since June 2008. Uh, Added 252,000 jobs for December. We had average hourly earnings lower by 0.20. This is a rather important number, folks. This is what the Fed, FOMC monitor rather closely for possible inflation pressures. And this is where we talked about this before, this notion of the Fed almost wanting to be slightly behind the curve, wanting to see wage pressures, wage inflation pressures, and then they'll have a confirmation that indeed there's positive momentum in the economy. And if we're not getting that, they're, you know, a slight opinion here, they may be a bit more dovish in that respect. So I think that's very important to keep an eye on. Also, for the December number, we want to keep in mind this is the devil's advocate side. Would really try to give you both sides of the equation here. Keep in mind there's seasonal employees for December, right? So we had the holiday season in the U.S., massive hiring for the holiday season. So that's something to keep an eye on. Also, the participation rate. The participation rate is the working age people in the labor force, and that actually decreased from 62.9 to 62.7. So that's the overall report. We really we want to report on this as unopinionated as possible. But again, keep the caveats in mind when you're looking at specific numbers. Also, so let's dive in a little bit more. What's being mentioned? Certainly, I think from a attention perspective, I think a lot of folks are focused what's happening in France, but in general on the economy and what's driving markets these days and opinions is we've had this general euro weakness, dollar strength. Although this morning we are seeing a reversal of that trend, we are seeing the dollar lower now. Actually, exasperate. Dollar is continuing its decline from the morning, and euro is increasing now in the 1.18 handle range. So again, keeping a very close eye on that. We have a continued oil weakness, and really the conversation here is among traders is, and what we're hearing from institutional analysts is, where is this bottom in oil? Can the number of 45 came out as a potential bottom? And this is something that we've been talking about. Look, over the last, and certainly Milt will chime in this on this as well in a few minutes. Is this notion of, as oil is coming down, people are calling bottoms. They're constantly calling, is there an oil trade? Can traders, institutional traders, larger hedge funds get out in front of a potential oil trade if oil should bounce rather hard? What's the trade? Do you get into oil specifically? Do you get into individual stocks, ETNs, ETFs, and so forth? So that's something that keep an eye on. Certainly, QE ECB meeting January 22nd. We're continuing to have comments throughout the days with respect to what the ECB may do, and of course, this risk of deflation. It's going to be more and more of a topic of conversation, and that's something we keeping an eye on rather closely. Also, the Grexit, more and more people are referring to this term, the Greek exit from the euro. And really, is there a bluff in play here? Is Greece, pushing it a little bit? What will Germany do? And it's a little bit of a again, hate to use this term again, a little bit of a game theory here. What's one side going to do versus the other? A lot of geopolitical, a lot of history there between Germany and Greece, certainly going back over 60 years. So that's something that always that also it enters the picture there. And of course, as we always mention when we discuss oil, what's the impact on Russia, and what's Russia going to do as things progress with a lower oil price? Certainly, we in terms of macroeconomic news, we had the wholesale trade number this morning. And 120, we're having Fed Speaker Jeffrey Lacker. And again, what we're looking for from the speakers is any indication of rates, of monetary policy, what their perception of possible inflation is, and things like and topics such as that. And sometimes they don't mention monetary policy, and it's just a speech that they get that they make. Frankly, certainly they'll render some opinions, but it may not be market moving. Also, want to again, Baltic Dry Index is an index we watch on a daily basis, down again by 2.7% to 724 points. We've seen a consistent decline in that particular index. It's a great index to monitor for real-time economic activity with respect to shipping and for grain, raw materials, and so forth. So that's something to it's very good to watch. Let's do overnight markets, and then we'll get into the technicals with Milton. In overnight trading, we had the Nikkei higher by 0.18%, Hang Seng higher by 0.35%, and the Shanghai lower by 0.24%. In Europe, mostly lower today. FTSE lower by 0.68%. DAX in Germany lower by 0.85%. CAC in Paris lower by 1.16%, and the IBEX taking on the chin there a bit, lower by 3.24% in Spain. So before we get to the yields, and let's bring Milton in. Milt, what's your thought on this market? Certainly, we had a couple of days rebound from that initial, I don't want to call it a sell-off, but a downtrend, let's call it. What's your thought going into this early market? And certainly it's a Friday, so we need to keep that in mind. What's on your mind? What are you thinking?
Well, everyone was talking about the, it's not farm payroll day. The employment numbers were good across the board. Market spiked about 10 to 12 handles on that headline. Currently, it's basically back to where it was prior to the economic number release. We're going to see what the trading day is like today. It's going to be, it's an interesting day. It's payroll Friday day, so it's always one of those days where you have to give that credence. You have to give that, you have to take a step back and, really get an idea of what many traders are feeling, what their reaction is. Initial reaction was to the upside. Currently, it's basically a flat non-event kind of reaction. So we'll see what happens throughout the trading day. We're at, key levels in the ES. We're watching these levels. You're right at resistance on the ES around the 2050, 2055 level. So you may have broken above that initially, but clearly going back below it. So we're going to keep an eye on these levels, the 2055 ES to the upside. Support on the ES we have at around 20, I'm guessing, 2040s. Then you have increments lower. Ideal support will be around the 2030 level. So you have about a 20-25 handle range on the ES. So we're going to keep an eye on that, keeping an eye on the volume, seeing what the volume reaction is. If you can look at an ES, you can see that the volume is higher on the lower days than on the upswings. So we want to see what the reaction is on a day like today, where there should be volatility, there should be activity. Let's see if the volume comes in today. Let's see if we can reverse back to highs and see if this move can continue to the upside. But as of now, we're watching the 2055-ish levels, plus or minus, on the resistance, 2040s to 2030s on support. Oil, yet again, oil is down. You're in that range. What number did we always mention as the magnet? The magnet is 48. Where is it? 48.57. Breaks above it, it'll go back to 48. Break below it, it'll probably go back to 48. So it's building what it did at the 55 level. It's building somewhat of a base. The question is which direction is it going to go this time? Last time it broke, we came down to 48, 46, 48. Right now, we're going to see what happens. If it could continue here, building a base, breaks below it, could see, mid 40s again. Breaks above it, we could easily go back into the 50s, low 50s, 55 range. So we're keeping an eye on it. Ideally, we'd like to see a volume burst on a specific move. Once that happens, we will definitely throw it into the room. VIX, we're looking at, 14, 16 support, 20 resistance. Hit that 20 number yesterday, day before, broke below it, now it's in 17. Now it's in that range. Next step is all depending on the market. So as of now, the VIX is near low-end support. Is near the high-end support levels. We're going to keep an eye and see if it can base here or it continues lower. But ideally, it's back into that, range of the 16 to 20 range. So ideally, nothing was broken to the upside, nothing broken to the downside. It's in the range. Once we get a significant move on the VIX, we will make sure we let everybody know. But as of now, it's in the tradable range between 16 to 20. Looking for, a move back to the upside depending on the markets. We mentioned, a long time ago that gaps really do not matter on, on indicators, but we do have a gap in the VIX. Last time we had a gap was near the mid to end of December, which was eventually filled. We have a gap again. Typically, it looks like a very similar pattern. So we're going to see if that gap will be filled again. So that's the VIX. Gold, it's it's in that range, 1150 to 1250. Tip right now, if I look at the chart, it looks bullish. A break above the 1220 mark, could see a move back up to the 1250 levels. So we're keeping an eye on that, and we will see if there's anything on that aspect. As of now, we're going to look at lastly the dollar strength. Dollar strength is it's still there. It's down about a little bit. Currently right by all-time highs. We're keeping an eye on it. There were some comments overnight this morning as well from the EU regarding their QE. They finally came out with a possible, solution. So we'll see what happens on that side. But as of now, we're watching the U.S. dollar on the upside, right near highs, down a little bit this morning, and the euro, which is at 118.14. Everyone in the currencies, we talked to many people. It seems like the base is trying to be formed around the 118 level. Will it happen? Who knows? There was chatter of parity the past few days. If that happens, it's a whole new ballgame in Europe. But as of now, 118 seems to be some sort of a support. We're keeping an eye on that level, keeping an eye on the strength of the U.S. dollar. It's going to be an important day today. We'll want to see what happens at the close. Typically, you want a strong close into a weekend. Ideally, markets are down right now. They really haven't moved since we started our commentary, but we would like to see what happens going into the afternoon and into the close. George?
Thank you, Milton. One of the things, as Milton brought up the U.S. dollar, keep in mind we have the chart of the U.S. dollar up. This is on a 10 years. Over on the left here is you see 92.63. This morning, if we just go towards we go towards the 1 minute, we hit the 92.50, literally 0.13 away from a 10-year high. In in the dollar. So I think that's something that's, we feel it's a rather important story to monitor very closely. So the fact that it's coming down a bit, but in general, the trend has been to the upside, specifically in the U.S. dollar versus the euro, and really other currencies that impact on other currencies, specifically the ruble. And so as we progress in the day, if we hear anything specific with respect to currencies, we'll certainly post those into the app. So keep watching. Let's turn back to the presentation here as we like to um, give ideas with respect to what to at the very least to monitor on a daily basis when you're watching oil. These are great names to at the very least to watch to how they fluctuate with oil. Should there be a larger move in oil, what's the impact on these particular ETNs and ETFs? And that's something that we follow pretty closely. Also, keep an eye on the producers, the larger stocks. Keep an eye on the transports as well. We posted this morning. Transports were lower in the Dow Jones. Also, one thing to keep in mind is the correlation between a particular oil-related stock and oil itself. What's that correlation? Is it 1? Is it 0.99? How closely correlated is that stock to oil or and that's the way we like to at least structure our list to monitor. Um, and really, the lower oil stays, the longer oil stays at these levels. What's that impact on CPI and PPI? Clearly, it has an impact on because it's energy. If you're using the same amount of energy, you're paying less. It's less of a cost, right? So it's basic finance, it's econ 101, folks. So that's something to keep in mind on. Also, let's jump into commodities, energy, raw materials here. On crude oil, we are lower still by 28 cents at 48.51, $48.51. West Texas intermediate crude. On the distillate side, we have gasoline lower by 0.0155 at 1.3255. Natural gas. Not many people are really discussing natural gas, but it really has been on an interesting downtrend as of late. So still, it's hovering around the $3 level, 2.959, higher by 0.032. Heating oil lower by 0.0003 at 1.7109. Um, again, we're having in the Northeast a bit of a cold snap with some severe weather here. So again, from a demand perspective, the Northeast in the U.S. does tend to be a rather important demand area for both natural gas and heating oil. So that's something to keep in mind. On gold, higher by $9, higher $10 by $10 even this morning at $1,218.70. Silver higher by 15 cents at $16.53.5. And we have platinum higher by $5.90 at $1,229 even. Also, we can take a look at cocoa as well, lower by $10 at $29.77. A brief a recap. We started the conversation this morning specifically on the yields. We do have a little bit of an increase on yields. Well, actually, forgive me. That's incorrect. We had an initial increase on the 10-year. We're back down below 2% on the 10-year at 1.995. We did have an increase on the 30-year at 2.605. That 5-year is maintaining that 1.4 area, 1.445 to be specific on the yield. Okay, and we can take a look also at the U.S. dollar at 92.084, so quite a bit lower from those highs earlier in the morning. Euro at 1.8 1.1825. So it's in the 118 handle area back there. So let's dive into specific stocks that are being circulated around this morning. Excuse me. We have CNAT downgraded by Piper Jeffries to neutral. CNAT this morning lower by 36% this morning at $6.53. That was a downgrade by Piper to neutral. Price target $6. NEP, Next Era Energy Partners, initiated by Credit Suisse with an outperform. NEP at $37.50, higher by 2.5% this morning. Morgan Stanley upgrades Wynn Resorts, WYNN, at $151.07 to overweight. Target is 190. Currently, currently $150.93, up about 2.5% this morning on that upgrade. FOLD, Amicus Therapeutics coverage resumed with a buy at Janney Capital, target 11. Stock is lower this morning by 2.4% at $8.95 this morning. Also, downgrade by Goldman on Nuance Communications yesterday to a sell, currently at $13.58. Stock is down about 3.5% this morning. Want to take a look want to take a look at insider transactions from the overnight and into this morning. We have HCOM, HCOM, Hawaiian Telecom. We have Twin Haven Capital Partners, LLC, 10% owner, purchasing about 500,000 shares worth, currently at $26.72 in HCOM. CPRX, that had about a $140,000 purchase by the CEO, currently at $2.84, higher by about 3.5%. REN, Resolute Energy, we had 100,000 purchase, 100,000 share purchase, $90,000 worth, currently at 81 cents this morning, lower by just about 3.5% this morning. CLMS, we had 10% owner purchasing about $300,000 worth at $12.62 this morning, higher by 1.7%. NNVC, New V North. This is we had this. I'm sorry, NNVC. My apologies here. We had a $65,000 purchase. Currently, stock is at $2.58, lower by about 1% this morning. And we had BRT. We had multiple insider purchases. Really not much coming out of the security this morning. Nothing yet, but again, we had some significant purchases, about $600,000 worth of purchases this morning in BRT. So we'll see where that takes us into the trading day. So let's review the market before we wish you a good day. We have the S&P futures are lower by 9, even 9 handles at 2046.25. We have crude oil lower by 23 cents at $48.54. And we have the 10-year still below that 2% at 1.997. Folks, thank you for listening to us. This is Unusual Activity powered by FinancialJuice.com with George Avedon and Milton Marmonides. We wish you a great day, a great weekend, and good hunting.